Dot and Bess. Dot and Bess, named Dorothea and Elizabeth at birth, were twins. Beautiful twin girls who were adored by their parents. Were they? I don't know, but that's what I want to believe, and so it is. The girls were dressed identically, with only different colored bows in their curly brown locks to distinguish them. Dot had a mole on her right labia. Bess did not. Thus their mother could tell them apart. As they grew, their personalities diverged. Bess was the brainier of the two, often finishing Dot's assignments for her. Dot was flighty, scouring fashion magazines and reading the social pages of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Sundays. She critiqued the brides' dresses with the eye of a fashion editor at some fancy magazine. The girls continued to dress alike through high school. Born at the turn of the 19th century into the 20th, fashions went from the starched Victorian era of hoop skirts with high starched collars and complicated undergarments to lighter fabrics and mass-produced fashions. By the 1920s, both girls were ready for the flapper look, but Dot especially. As skirts became shorter, Bess had to remind Dot to keep her knees together when they attended church on Sundays. Bess was a proper lady the day she was born, the family saying went. It was implied that Dot was not. It was she who was to be my grandmother one day. The year after the twins were introduced to Pittsburgh society, they were invited to the Christmas ball at the William Penn Hotel. Congressman John M. Moran was the host, and his eldest son, John M. Moran, Jr., was home from West Point in his dress grays to attend. I imagine the two being introduced. "John, I want you to meet the Wilson twins, Dot and Bess." Bess was elegant in a blue satin sheath, her mother's pearls at her neck. Dot wore a claret gown with a handkerchief-style hem and a deep V back. She carried a beaded bag and wore an ostrich feather in her short bob hairstyle. John was drawn to her as a dowsing stick is drawn to water. "I know who you are," Dot said when they were introduced. "We met a year ago when Bess and I were here at Cotillion. You said you were off to the Point in the fall." "Of course, I remember the beautiful Wilson twins," said John, not sure he did, but not wanting to offend either of those gorgeous girls. "My dance card is open for the foxtrot," Dot said. Bess nudged her and gave a cross look. "But I need some punch first," said Dot, offering her empty glass to John Jr., who obliged. They drifted to the balcony with their drinks. There was a light snow falling, big flakes but very little wind. John draped his cadet jacket over Dot's shoulders and pulled her close. "What are your plans, John?" "For you," he said. "No, silly, for the future." "Oh, because my plans for you are just developing, but my future has been planned by Father." "Politics?" Dot asked. "Well, yes. He thinks I'm going to be the first Irish-American POTUS." "Is that what you want?" Dot said. "I want to be a song and dance man, but they don't have vaudeville classes at the Point." They laughed together, and soon were dancing without music on the balcony of the William Penn Hotel ballroom. Bess delivered the news of Dot's pregnancy to John Jr.'s commanding officer directly. The twins were 17. John Jr. was 21, soon to be a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. His Yuletide dalliance would have lifelong ramifications. On a rainy March day, John went by train to Pittsburgh, where he met Dot at Union Station. They took another train together to West Virginia, where they could marry legally, considering Dot's age, and avoid public knowledge. John wore civilian clothes. Dot wore a tweed coat. The train ride to Wheeling was awkward, with John trying to act the happy groom. I've been away from you a long time. I never thought I'd miss you so. How I love you, Swanee, he sang to her in his Jolson impression. Stop, Johnny, you're embarrassing me. A man across the aisle looked their way, and Dot felt her belly was already 8 months full with child, not just 8 weeks. She excused herself to go to the toilet. What Bess called morning sickness was afflicting her at all hours. When she returned to her seat, John was asleep and snoring. Was there a wedding ring? It's one of the many things I don't know about my grandparents. What I do know is that the child Dot gave birth to lived to be less than a year old. He was known as Buddy and was buried on his first birthday. John Jr. was required to resign his commission from West Point to uphold the moral standards of a U.S. Army officer. It could have been worse. He could have been arrested for statutory rape. He would not go on to be the first Irish-American president. He would, however, get to be in show business.